Hey, welcome back to Brushstrokes and Beauty. My name is Sean, and I am a longtime oil painter and all-time fine art enthusiast. So in each video, we're going to look at just one painting with fresh eyes and do a deep dive into the technique and beauty. And I'm so excited for this episode because today we get to look at the Valpinçon Bather by Ingres. I consider this an elegant painting because it feels colorful, but it doesn't really have these super bright colors screaming at me. And there's so much to look at, yet I don't feel overwhelmed in any way. So, color harmony. I think the color harmony adds to the mood here. It creates a quiet, suspended moment. And I really love this painting because the longer I sit with it, the more things I start to notice. So Ingres is known to be a true master of line and form. And this picture is clearly a combination of interesting lines and very satisfying forms. And I'm always amazed by how soft yet full he manages to make the form of this figure. And it's pretty clever actually because he surrounds this woman with drapery and pillows and comforters and all of these soft round things which are similar to what her body is, so we would think that that would make it more difficult to bring out or enhance, emphasize the form. But my thought is that he actually resolves this by making the full body a one grand undisturbed form. And what I love about Ingres' paintings is that the drawing is so deliberate. I love this. And I think of his paintings as very efficient because nothing seems inconsequential and everything is contributing to the overall sense of beauty. Now, I'll probably come back to this idea later on, but first I want to talk about some light effects. Okay, so there are two types of effects that jump out at me, and one is called a joint effect, which is not like a body joint, but more like an edge where two different values meet, like this right here. And this implies high contrast and overlap. It's separating the figure from the background. Of course, here is another joint effect, but it's not really, it's a very low contrast effect. Essentially, the colors are the only thing that's different here. The value is the same. So we see this move from a little bit of contrast to no contrast in terms of value. But we still, because of that, get separation from the background here. Over here is another good example of a joint effect because we clearly see, due to the high contrast and the quality of the edge, how the sheet and even this drapery here is closer to us than the feet. The effect of form, however, is created within a unified shape. For example, the way that this cushion or comforter feels like it has volume and is coming towards us is created within this area, and it's due to the shifting of the values. And in an area like here, it's more a lot to do with the value and the shifting of color. So we can see how as we move away from the light, the color gets a little more muted or less chromatic or saturated, and is also a little darker in value. So I just got to take a moment here to appreciate how well Ingres addresses his edges. You can really see how it moves from a slightly softer to ever so slightly sharper around the curve here. Again, here we have a nice clean edge, but the values are controlled, very similar. And even right down here, we see how soft the edge of the waist is compared to this crisp, beautiful contrast on the edge of the inside of the arm. And again, down here, we see a softer edge, a little bit harder to see exactly where it is when compared to the crispness of the light effect here. Just masterful brushwork going on. So the composition in this painting is very fascinating to me. He uses spotting and pattern to move the eye around like we see in a lot of great paintings. But there is a major diagonal movement, a major thrust of the painting loaded with some different varieties of eye candy. And I'm wondering if you can spot it. Okay, so we can see here that Ingres is using light effects interesting shapes, variety of sizes and intricacy and elegant line to create a really fun passageway that runs right through the center of this composition. And it seems like in these circled areas, we see the intricate shapes separated by these large areas of simplicity created by the body. So these are a few examples of how I think he's using repetition to lead our eye. We see both round shapes and forms repeating in the headcloth, the elbow, the comforter, even this pillow over here, and the tubes of the drapery. Over here we see angles and lines repeating, mostly created by the folds of the drapery, but we even see it happening in smaller ways through the geometric pattern on the sheet down here. Earlier I made a comment about his deliberate drawing, and I really think Ingres puts a lot of thought into every single line in this picture. And he does it in a way that creates a wide range of shapes, really large shapes with smaller, more complex shapes within them that have even smaller, more complex shapes within them. And I think this helps to really add to the breadth of the painting because the organization of these large shapes makes it so that the painting has breathing room, but then there's always more and more to look at as we look into different areas of the picture. All right, so this is my attempt to show you what I have in mind. Here we have like the largest shapes of the picture. We have the drapery, the division happening through the value of the background, the figure, and the bed top. Then within those areas we have smaller shapes of interest spotting around. And then within those areas, we have even smaller shapes that we can see have way more complicated detail or interesting line patterning that draws our eye further into those areas. Coming back to the full picture, I'm even noticing now how in the corners each corner is treated with this subtle, small, seemingly insignificant detail. It just goes to show how he doesn't take for granted any area of the picture. Every single part of the picture has the potential to contribute in some way. And we can see how even just the contrast in value here helps our eye kind of connect to the figure and bring a little bit of balance. I think you could cover up any one of those corners and hide what he's doing and see that the painting is worse off without what he's added. But with all the technical analysis aside, we can just take in the picture and let our eyes explore the painting and see what we find. And I think in general, it's a very entertaining picture to look at. I'm even noticing now the reds in the headdress, and then down here, the spotting of the red on her slipper and on the bottom of this curtain. It's just very elegantly poised throughout the picture in a way that is subtle, but when I see it, it's done so well and it's so rewarding. And I think that echoes through all of the things that Ingres is doing in this picture. So that's going to do it for this episode. And I'm really wondering if you love this painting as much as I do, because every time I see this picture, it feels like I'm seeing it for the first time. As always, thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed the video or found it valuable in some way, please go ahead, like, subscribe, and all the goody. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next one.